Okay, in the very first video of this course, I showed you what can happen if everything goes right. I am now going to show you two videos where things go both right, but also could go very wrong. Now, what I mean by that is it's the main line. It's the main line of the Italian knight attack. It's the fried liver attempt, but failure. And it's something where you are going to have to flex your memory and ability. Now, I'm going to stop being mysterious, and we're going to begin. And then next, we'll look at, obviously, everything else. So we get to this position. Black plays d5, we take. Black does not, right? Play knight takes d5. Black plays knight a5. This is the most common move. It's the most common move at the master level, and as far as the amateur level, it is not the most common move, but obviously past around 1700, 16, 1700, it becomes the most popular move. Our bishop is under attack, and black wants to take the pawn with the queen if we back up. So we throw in this check, okay? We throw in this check because it's a nice move that wins us a little bit of time. Now, the only move here that people really play is pawn to c6, but obviously your opponent can also block with the bishop. Against this, if you don't remember, you're not going to remember this in a game because you're going to think, I got to take. No, you actually play queen e2. This is a very smart move because it simultaneously attacks the pawn and defends the bishop. And if they capture, we take with an attack on the knight and the king. And after c6, we take that too with an attack here. So if they take with a knight, we go here, and this is mate. So like the whole thing could spin out of control very, very fast for black if they play bishop takes b5. The best move is this, and now I just recommend very simple. Take the bishop, play knight c3. This knight can always come back when it's attacked, and you simply defend the pawn, and you're in good shape. Like, you know, as an amateur and an intermediate, you know, let's say 15, 1600 and below, you'll have a person that plays bishop d7. It's not a completely crazy move. It happens about 1 in 5 times. But c6 is the move we take. I'm not going to look at anything. Like, I'm not going to look at knight takes because then you just castle. I hope you understand. Like, the goal of the fried liver is not always to play the fried liver. You got to castle, finish up your development, etc. The best move is this. Now there are multiple moves. I recommend this. There is also bishop to e2, which is just sort of bringing the bishop all the way back. At noob level, a lot of people play bishop a4. There's also queen f3, pinning the pawn to the rook. All of these are possible, and if you don't like my recommendation, you can obviously just choose one. I really like bishop d3 because to me, it has a very logical point. The point is, we want to bring this knight back to the e4 square, trade that knight, put our bishop here, and castle our king. Like, it's just a very logical point. Just want to play knight to e4. Now, I'm now going to take you through, and like I said, this is why this video is good news and bad news. The bad news is they know what they're doing. The good news is the next several moves are so absurd that it is unlikely that 99% of you who watch this are ever going to get that far. But I'm going to show it to you anyway. In this position, the masters put the knight on d5 and try to attack the knight like that. The knight on d5 is useful because it can then jump to f4 where it attacks the bishop. That's why knight d5 here is the master level line. The other thing about the knight move is that the f-pawn can come forward. At this point, you basically are split into two paths. If the opponent plays h6, they don't know what they're doing. And yet it is the most common move in the amateur database by like 5x. If your opponent plays knight d5, it's not a great sign. It means that they do know what they're doing, but we're going to try to out-prepare them anyway. Now, I'm going to show this to you first because it is way more likely that this happens. Now we just execute our plan. Black can, of course, take. If they don't take, if they, I don't know, play this now, for example, we can just castle. And you're going to see a little bit later, we don't care that this knight is coming to the f4 square. It doesn't matter to us. We don't even care if we lose the pawn here because black, oops, that's not what black is going to do. Black spends so much time, 1, 2, 3, 4. By the time black's knight arrives, as long as you play toward the center, it makes no difference that this pawn falls. because this pawn is always going to be weak. You have moves like even queen h5 attacking this. You have moves like, you know, dropping the knight back and then attacking the pawn there. This knight is sort of on the edge of the board. You have rook e3 and then trying to kick the queen out. Like, again, worst comes to worst. If you have to do it, you can do it this way. But the knight is very comfortable here. And if you don't want that to happen, you can always drop the bishop back. And, you know, get here and then just keep developing. And if they try to play f5, this is going to be a very rude awakening for black, whose king is now stranded in the center for the rest of the game. So h6 is a welcome sight. And also, if bishop e7, you don't really care, like you'll just castle. This position is now the most common string of moves from that position that I just mentioned, where the two paths split. The most common move in the amateur database is exactly this one. It's h6, this trade, castles, and from here, white has two plans. One of them is d3, knight c3, and bishop f3, which can happen like this. d3, f5, bishop f3, knight c3, bishop e3. Remember, we're up a pawn. We got out of the fried liver up a pawn, so we're happy to make some central trades and just sort of play and put some pressure. Another plan after we castle is also to play c3 and to try to play b4. So if black castles, we can play c3 and try to play b4. It's actually very awkward for black to deal with this. And then after c3, b4, like let's say black plays bishop b6, you can play b4, knight b7. I mean, you can even grab a second pawn, and you're very happy there. And then what you'll do is you'll have to obviously slowly get your way out of here. So you have two plans in this position, and this is the most common string of moves that will occur. You got to play either knight c3, d3, drop the bishop back to f3, or c3, b4, try to win the pawn on c6, and then slowly finish up your development. Now here's the bad news, all right? Knight d5 is the bad news. Knight d5 is the master level main line and leads to some of the most wicked stuff I've ever seen. I'm going to show it to you, and if you're watching this as a beginner, it's going to be kind of fun to observe, but probably you'll never have to face this in the game. Now we have to drop the knight back here. Our knight is under attack. The queen attacks it, so we go here, counterattacking this pawn. We are attacking it, but, you know, if black plays something like bishop c5, I would be a little bit careful taking this pawn, as our king is still in the center. So really, we want to go here, and then we kind of want to castle. Like, that's really what we would like to do. A move like bishop g4 looks really aggressive, but doesn't really have a purpose. And the first thing I'd be thinking of is, why can't I just attack the bishop and then like completely kick it out and then take this pawn? But obviously, first I would castle. The reason I would castle is there's no way to put pressure here. I would castle my king. If the knight came in, I would play exactly as I'm about to show you. So I'm going to show you, how to play this position and not be scared. Right? We play knight f3. Bishop d6, castle, and now this move, knight f4. So this is the aggressive plan. It's trying to basically say, hey, your bishop is dumb and I'm going to take the bishop. I don't really care if the bishop is on g4 or what. We just let them do it. We let them take it. Hikaru played like this against Fabiano Caruana in, I believe, the Grand Swiss tournament of 2023. And the point is, the pawn is pretty easy to protect. And black lost a bunch of time trying to take it, but attacking it is not even that easy, because if black plays bishop f5, we put the knight in front of the pawn and play queen e2. If black plays bishop a6, we just go for the pawn in the center. Like, this pawn is ready to be given up, which is why generally here black castles, we play b3, rook e1, bishop b2, knight e4. This pawn will protect, and we're going to try to counterattack the pawn in the center, and this knight doesn't have much mobility at all. And if you'd like to, you can go look at that game, Hikaru versus Fabiano. So, knight f4 right away, in a lot of positions, whether the bishop is on g4 or what, is well met with just development and saying, look, black, if you want to take my bishop, it's going to come with the loss of time. You're going to have spent 4 moves with the knight, and now you don't have a knight anymore. But it's still fine. Again, we're watching master level play, so it's still equal. The other way black can play is castles, and this is where things get really goofy. So I recommend rook e1, simply attacking the pawn on e5, and now I'm going to show you what might happen here. Let's say rook e8. We got to develop our knight. We got to develop The best, if black takes us, we're going to take with the pawn this way because we want to open the bishop and the queen. All right. Best move here is f5, and we reach this position, which is the master level main line, putting our knight in the center of the board. A trade here will lead to a skewer, and from here we have the plan of b3 and bishop b2. Like I said, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is this is a master level line. So if you cannot remember this for the life of you, don't worry, because I think if you can't remember it, you're not at the level that you're going to see this all that often. But the fried liver at a master level is very tricky. It is very tricky, and if black knows 16 moves of stockfish, you're going to have to know it as well. The craziest line by far is if they don't defend the pawn on e5 and they play f5. And this is some really wicked stuff, okay? Here are two examples of computer lines that can happen from this point. If you play knight takes e5, there's queen f6, knight back, g5, you have to counterattack with c4, knight f4, bishop back, g4, your knight is trapped, you sacrifice your knight to create counterplay. If you can remember 18 moves, this is why this is not my top recommendation, I can't make you memorize 18 moves. This is not the kind of website and this is not the kind of course that I want to create. Instead, I recommend something pretty epic. I recommend something that has literally never been played before, and that is sacrificing the rook on e5. And this is pretty awesome. The point of this move is that from this position, you have a dark squared bishop and a pawn for the rook, but black suddenly has no more fun. No more fun. Your knight is always coming back to f3. The bishop is going to slide back to the f1 square, so your king is completely protected, and then you start pushing all your pawns, developing the rest of your pieces. On a high depth, the computer thinks that white is actually slightly better here, despite being down a bishop and a pawn for a rook, which is just 1 point. So rook e5 has never been tried. If you've made it this far in a game and you play knight e5 and they get this massive attack on you, it could be bad news. But this is my recommendation. So again, to summarize this in 30 seconds, knight a5 is the master level move. We play bishop b5, and after this trade, we drop back here. The most common thing you're going to face in this path is h6. And then remember to come back to e4. Against knight d5, we drop back, bishop d6, we both castle, rook e1. Now the scariest thing that they can do here is play f5. If they play f5, it's a sign of a very, very, very good player. However, even if they play rook e8 defending the pawn, you have to remember to develop your pieces. In the fried liver, we grab a pawn, run out, and we have to have a getaway plan. The getaway plan is oftentimes dropping the bishop back to the f1 square and snapping at the center. That is how you have to play when they play the best possible version of the fried liver attack against you. Okay? Long video, I understand. Review these lines. They are not easy. I told you there was good news, and I told you there was bad news.